There is a strange contradiction inside the human brain. A task can take 10 minutes to complete, yet somehow require hours of mental preparation before we even begin. You open your laptop. The document is empty. The assignment is simple. The first step is obvious. But something invisible pushes back. Your brain creates resistance. You suddenly need to check something, organize something. Think about the perfect way to start. Maybe you convince yourself you need more motivation first. The strange part? The moment you finally begin, the resistance disappears. The task was never as difficult as your brain predicted. This creates one of the biggest execution problems humans face. We confuse the discomfort of starting with the difficulty of the task itself. The brain is not always trying to stop you because something is hard. Sometimes it is trying to protect you from the uncertainty of entering something new. Every unfinished project, delayed decision, and abandoned goal often begins at the same psychological doorway, the first few seconds before action. And hidden inside those seconds is a battle between two systems in the brain, one that wants progress and another that wants safety.
Psychologists describe this pattern through concepts like acrasia, the tendency to act against what we know is best for ourselves. You know studying matters. You know exercising matters. You know starting the project matters. But knowing is not the same as doing. The mistake most people make is labeling this as laziness. But laziness suggests a lack of desire. That is usually not the real problem. The real problem is activation energy. In physics, activation energy is the minimum amount of energy required to start a reaction. The same concept exists inside human behavior. A task is like a heavy object sitting on the ground. Once it starts moving, momentum helps, but the first push requires the most force. Your brain is constantly calculating effort. Before beginning anything, it asks, how much energy will this require? What if I fail? What if this becomes overwhelming? What if I cannot do it perfectly? The brain does not see the first step. It sees a cloud of uncertainty. A simple email becomes, I need to write the perfect response. A workout becomes, I need a perfect routine. A business idea becomes, I need to understand everything before starting. The brain expands the size of the doorway until walking through feels impossible. The task did not grow. The mental representation of the task did.
One of the most interesting discoveries in psychology is that humans are highly influenced by prediction. Your brain is not simply reacting to reality, it is constantly predicting reality. Neuroscientists describe the brain as a prediction machine. Before you act, your brain creates an expectation of what that action will feel like. If the prediction says, this will be exhausting, this will be uncomfortable, this will require too much effort, the brain creates resistance before the action even begins. A powerful example comes from research on effort perception. Studies in neuroscience show that the brain evaluates the expected reward compared to the expected effort. When effort feels larger than the reward, motivation drops. Your brain essentially performs a calculation. Is this worth the energy? The problem? The brain often overestimates the cost of starting. Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain. From the ground, the entire mountain looks impossible. But after taking the first few steps, your perspective changes. The mountain did not become smaller. Your brain received new information. Starting creates evidence. Evidence changes predictions. This is why action often creates motivation, not the other way around. People wait for motivation before starting, but the brain frequently generates motivation after movement begins.
But this problem becomes worse in the modern world, because modern life has created an environment where starting is constantly interrupted. Every app, notification, and digital platform competes for the same thing, the transition moment. That tiny gap between intention and action. You decide, I'm going to focus for an hour. Then your phone gives you a small reward, a message, a video, a notification, a new piece of information. Your brain receives an easier option. And easier options are dangerous because the brain is designed to conserve energy. This is where dopamine loops become powerful. Dopamine is not simply the pleasure chemical people often describe. It is heavily involved in motivation, anticipation, and seeking. Every new piece of information creates a small possibility of reward. The brain starts preferring searching over doing, planning over executing, consuming over creating. The result is a person who is mentally active all day, but physically stuck. And the most dangerous part? The brain begins to associate important work with discomfort, while distraction becomes associated with relief. The escape becomes easier than the effort.
The solution is not forcing yourself to become more disciplined. Discipline alone is a weak strategy against a poorly designed environment. The better approach is to redesign the system around the psychology of starting. The first principle: reduce friction before increasing motivation. Most people build systems around goals, but effective systems are built around behaviors. Instead of, I need to write an entire article, create, open the document and write one sentence. Instead of, I need to completely change my lifestyle, create, make the next action impossible to misunderstand. The brain struggles with ambiguity. Clear actions reduce cognitive load. The second principle: create smaller entry points. The goal of the first step is not completion. The goal is activation. A door does not need to be wide open. It only needs to be open enough to enter. The third principle: architect your priorities. Your environment should make important actions easier and distractions harder, because your brain will always choose the path with lower psychological resistance.
The biggest obstacle between you and your goals is often not a lack of ability. It is the invisible moment before movement. The few seconds where your brain decides whether something feels safe enough to begin. A person can spend years believing they need more confidence, more discipline, or more motivation. But sometimes the missing piece is much simpler. Make starting easier. Because every transformation begins with the same tiny event. A moment where thought becomes action. A moment where the brain stops predicting and starts experiencing. The first step is not proof that you are ready. The first step is how your brain learns that you are. Subscribe for more deep dives into behavioral mechanics.